Hello and welcome back to the next One Piece review and discussion. We are carrying straight on from last week's chapter with more of the carnage that is taking place on Elbaf right now, and the stakes have never been higher. This is certainly something very interesting and very peculiar going on, and everyone has cottoned on to now there is a problem. So I need to get stuck into this chapter. So without further ado, chapter 1144, A Time for Warriors. And the cover story continues with Yamato's pilgrimage and very quickly has dealt with who's who in his gang, has saved the women, has saved Minamoto, the carpenter guy who worked with Frankie, and has resolved the issue very quickly, so no surprise there. But last we had left off, previous chapter, we had the reveal of Saint Summers and Saint Kierman's devil fruits. We have the thorn fruit and the mythical dragon model of a Kirin. So Saint Summers' abilities were revealed that he could create these sort of spectral like thorns that would wrap around a person, and as a very defensive devil fruit, if anyone went to touch that person, the more love they had or the more affection they had, the greater the damage that would be dealt. So we see it with Saul trying to stop one of the children, and in doing so took a real like stab and went down to the floor writhing in pain. And we also then had the reveal of Kierman is able to put people asleep and in a strange like thought bubble pull out something from their dream. So that is how all of these crazy monsters, the things that the children have feared most, have come around. Now, we saw a ship try and deal with the fire that had taken place from Loki's attack the chapter before, and they were swatted out the sky immediately. So it was a very dangerous thing that they were dealing with. But also, then we obviously had the reveal of Loki, who was like, "You're going to free me, I'm going to keep causing damage." And Luffy has thrown the weakest punch he's ever thrown in his career in this whole endeavor of the adventure. And Loki's like, "Damn, yeah, okay, you win this round," and just goes unconscious. And in doing so, Luffy begs Hyrule and the others as like a sort of request to heal him, to help him. And as Loki starts to regain consciousness, Hyrule is stood over him with an axe, ready to kill him for what he's done to his father, for how he talked about his mother. And Loki says, "Do you really like believe the stories? Like, have you not figured it out yet? Why do you think I would do something like that?" So Loki basically telling us, things aren't what they seemed, and we can't have imagined that anyway. But nevertheless, we pick up with Frankie and Ripley. So they come to this tree, and Ripley's like, "I wanted to bring you to this part as well because it's something that I think you, as a cyborg of all things, would appreciate." And it is a technological, ancient tree, like a workshop type lab. And already Frankie's like, "How is this possible? Like, this is given some real like science vibes. Like, how the hell is this in the country of warriors of all things?" And we see shouting up above in the lab already is Lilith and Bonnie. And they were like, they got lost. They figured people to find them eventually. So they've just been like kind of checking out this facility. And Lilith explains, "Oh, like this is the perfect time because I wanted to actually show you this, Frankie." So maybe, like I said the other chapter ago, are we going to get a Vegapunk Frankie like moment here? Like all the science stuff, which would be really nice. But they talk about, well, Lilith says, this place is still running, which is such a marvel. But I've got to estimate that this place has been here for nearly 3,000 years. And they're like, well, that's kind of crazy. But guys, like, how can I, refute this? Because, honestly, like, we're not even sure of the origin. So Ripley's like, yeah, it's, like, you tell us, Vegapunk. But as they're talking about all the research and everything that they want to check out, they see something behind it. It's Bonnie who reacts first because she's bless her, just back in a kid form, and the giant thundercloud comes like barreling through the trees, and it even has like its own little title card of like what I find most scary, and it is thunder. And Frankie's like, whoa, like this is some serious deal. Like Elbaf's crazy, Like he's just like, whoa. And Ripley's like, no, 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 like this is a problem. That is something completely new. We gotta run. So they're currently dealing with that. So electricity dealing with a science facility. We'll see what they can do there. But we come back to the Western Village where everyone was partying. People are like, right, sober up, grab your weapons. We've got a big Drauga, a zombie to deal with here. And everyone's like, this is crazy. One guy comments, I can't believe like who could have brought out these monsters from the children's imaginations. Like, what type of ability brings that to life? And Brooke obviously makes a reference being like, I can't believe this is so surreal, there's a giant me. And I thought that was really nice. But they're all freaking out, and they're all like saying, right, Straw Hats, you get somewhere safe, we'll deal with this, big giants as we are. And he's sort of like, no, no, you don't have to keep us at arm's length. We can help too. And Nami's like, why did you whisper that? Like, we can just help, let's just, something strange is going on here. We need to do it. And one giant is dealing at the moment with Colin. He's like, I can fight, I can do this. I'm Gabon's son. You know, I'm like not just some kid. And this guy's like, look, like there's no place for you here. Just go, just leave. And Nami now clicks, and it's like, your Ja Rule, like there's something I forgot to tell you, and now is like the important time to do it. And there's like a little group like discussion between Ja Rule, I think one other giant, and like the rest of the Straw Hats who were at the party. And it was like, yeah, those dudes at the castle were seriously injured by someone who looked like Shanks, and another individual who had a very like weird ability but caused some serious pain. And Jinbei's like, right, okay, already you've told me about a weird ability. It's got to be a devil fruit, like an unknown element. Odds are it is a devil fruit ability. And they're like, right, we're going to go spread the word. There are other humanoid beings that are on Elbaf other than the Straw Hats. Get it out, report to everyone, and we'll find them immediately. And Brooke, even more like just of a genius, he's like, well, hold up. A lot more is actually happening. Like, this is some chaos going on. It would actually indicate there's more than just two people at work here. So they're like, right, okay, we're looking for more. And they're talking about how despicable it is that they would use children as hostages in this way. And they were like, in broad daylight, Nami's like raging, like in broad daylight of all things, they are nothing but scum taking hostages like this. And Usopp's like, they're planning something more for Elbaf. Like, this is just the start. We've got to find them. And Joro's like, whoa, 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 like, don't be ridiculous. You're the guests here. Like, you go somewhere safe. We'll deal with this. And he's like, where the hell's Dory and Broggy when you need them? He races off to go and like support the other giants. So it's just the Straw Hats now in like this massive like structure, and they're tiny, just talking like, right, well, it would make sense if we're going up against humanoid like people, we should be the ones to deal with it. We're better suited at fighting them than the giants are. And currently, they're dealing with the giant monsters. So it will give them a chance to focus on that, and we'll focus on the invaders. So pretty unanimously, they're like, all in agreement. But Brooke's like, look, like this is a big place. Like, where do we even start? And they look over and bless. Colin has his own like mini ship. He's hauling weapons and he's like, I'm gonna go do this. And they're like, oh, like why don't we join? And he's like, wait, you're not gonna like stop me? Okay, okay, that's cool. As long as I'm the captain. So Nami finds that really cute and endearing. So the Colin pirates set out on their own little small ship, the Miss to go and find these intruders. Now, these lovely holy knights, very despicably, have finished their afternoon tea time. You know, they've dusted off the plates, and Gunko has gone into what Summer describes as her ritual. Now, while they're having this moment, that probably I assume is the transponder snail, the big one we saw the last chapter, is reporting that, you know, in the Sun Realm there are humanoids other than the Straw Hats who were at the castle and are considered hostile and dangerous. So the report's gone out, but they're just like minding their own business here. And she's listening to music. She's got TDs, like is what they refer to it as, but just like headphones. And she's just listening. It's something she clearly does after a meal. And it's like, you know what, you've got a hobby, that's fair, you know. And I think it might be Kieran who's like, you know, oh, what's your favourite song, like what you listen to? And Gunko says New World. And I'm like, is Gunko's outing herself as a Brooke fan? Like, what interaction's that gonna cause? She's on like the Marines, the Celestial Dragon side. She's talked about, you know, being afraid of Nika. The Straw Hats are here. So she's gonna have an issue with them, obviously. They're pirates. But then all of a sudden she's like, oh no, but Brooke's music kinda slaps. So I wonder if she'll see Brooke and kind of go like a bit more like fangirly, like I don't really want to hurt you because I actually like your music. So someone makes the joke of, oh, like what's the issue with like this world? Like you like the new world? Like what's wrong with this one? But as they're all making the jest, Kerriman's like, oh guys, by the way, that giant down there, you know, he's really trying to like save those kids, you know. And we jump over, and Saul now has two Viking shields, like barricade shield wall, to try and stop the kids from like passing him. But we see to very little endeavour as the first child hits the shield, she stops, but the second child then connects with her, and the brambles and the thorns come back and damage them both. And Solomon like throws the shields. He's like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't know that was going to happen. We can't stop them from moving. They're going to knock into each other. Like we need to find another way." And even Robin's not like, "This is like despicable. Like who would do such a thing? This has got to be the work of a devil fruit." So they're all connecting the dots here. Like there's got to be. And she even says the only way for this to be like a Karen is they've got to be close by, and that makes sense. That we've not seen a extremely long range devil fruit before, like on a large scale. I guess Doflamingo's birdcage was one of the biggest things. I guess Pika also becoming the mountain are like the grander scale things of like an awakened fruit can potentially do. But they've still got to be within the vicinity. They can't be like on another island. It's causing all this. So Saul decides, right, what if instead we start from the child at the back and lassos them, pulls them out of line, and is like, wow, okay, this works. We can keep them away. They're not harming anyone. The thorns are wrapping, but no one's there for them to hit, so we might have a chance. And then looks up and is like, oh, what now? And Fenrir himself, the giant wolf, decides to appear. And he's like, oh, this is getting out of hand now. Like, who is behind this? So we jump over and we see back at the school, like, look, like, it's not just the Western Village. It is every village. There is monster sightings everywhere, all over Elbath. It's got to be some kind of ability, and we need to find who is doing it. The monsters themselves aren't a problem. It is the number of monsters. Because we see in the Western Village, they've dealt with the Draugr. They were like, that was a lot to throw at it, but we've dealt with him. He's down. But the problem is, there are other things to deal with. So we jump over to one of the other villagers who is dealing with the dragon, the Nidhogger, and a ghost as well. And they're like, look, this is too much for us. Like, both of them, like, dealing with a fire breathing dragon and a ghost causing anarchy. It's like, we just need to take cover at this point. The village is done for. And then out of the sky, we hear the both of them. You ready? Dory, absolutely braggy. They wind up a Hakoku sovereignty, their signature attack from their own ship flying in the sky. They send out the sovereignty wave that just annihilates the dragon, like pierces through it. And they're like, you've got to believe it. Our mighty Eric ship, this is its fall mode. Like, they've turned their own giant pirate ship into a mist ship. So that's pretty cool. And they're flying up and they're like, we had to just, barf up those booze. We had to sober ourselves up so that we could defeat these beasts. You guys take care of the kids. We've got this. And as we go to the ship, we see there is one other individual that has joined the giant warrior pirates. Scopper Gabon himself, axe in hand, has arrived with the boys and is like, oh, that's the mountain eater, that's Yarsan himself with the giant pirates. They go, well, that ship is basically invincible. And that is where the chapter ends, with the arrival of the giant warrior pirates, Gabon alongside it, the left hand of the Pirate King himself, just having warmed up against Luffy and the others. He's like, right, who needs taken down? So, I mean, what a chapter. We've got so many things happening now, and I like that it's sort of setting up as the Straw Hats don't want to sit around, which makes sense for them. They want to help, they want to stop this, and they're all individual groups of going, right, like, we need to find the Devil Fruit users, and at some point they're going to have that clash with the Holy Knights. And I actually don't think it will be Luffy and the others. I think Luffy, Zoro, Sanji are all in the moment dealing with Loki and what he's about to say that happened to King Harold. So I actually think the others are going to end up dealing with the Holy Knights first. Whether they're successful or not, it's hard to know because they're all going to be awakened users. I think at this point in the story that we're going to see the awakened versions, which means how dangerous is a dream fruit going to be? Because I said this last chapter, as soon as Kiriman puts any of the Straw Hats to sleep, like, they've done some pretty big fights, gone up against pretty big things, but they believe in Luffy being the king of the pirates. Like, Jinbei, of all things, has stared down Big Mum's devil fruit and gone, why would I be afraid of an emperor? I'm going to join the king of the pirates crew. I believe in Luffy. A mere emperor isn't going to frighten me. If Kiriman puts Jinbei asleep, what fear does Jinbei have that would really frighten him? That he would just extract and go, okay, cool. You're, the first son of the sea, Jinbei, the great warrior himself. What are you actually afraid of? Oh, now you have to fight that. Nami, Usopp, Chopper are known as the scaredy cats. Well, Chopper's not there at the minute, to be fair. He's with Robin, so unless they all meet up. But yeah, like, Gabon, like, there's so many strong individuals that, do they even have a fear? Like, if Gunko was to fight Luffy when he's in Gear 50, he's in Nika, and Kiraman's like, oh, if I just put him to sleep, like, what is Luffy afraid of most? And, like, using that against him. So, it's certainly going to make for a very interesting fight because Gunko's got a lot of the arrows. Kiraman does his whole dream manipulation, and like the thing is as well. What about putting him? I don't know if he could put himself asleep because he put Summer asleep and then like gave him the go ahead to wake up again. Like he woke him up. So whether he's able to put himself asleep, draw from his own dreams, and then wake himself back up somehow would be pretty dangerous. So it's a versatile fruit in the sense of can he only extract it from other people's dreams? He has to externally get them to go asleep to think of something to use their dream to pull out of. Because then at that point, like he could think of almost anything if he could do it to himself, and then cause a lot of problems. And then the final one is then what is Saint Summer tactically gonna do? He seems like a military man, very old, so he's probably had a fair few fights and a lot of training. All going to be hacker users. What is his combat ability with the thorn fruit? Because right now it's only being seen as something defensive. He marks someone with it. What else can it do? So, very interesting to see. But we end there. No break. So, that should be cool. Obviously, it does say there's going to be a colour spread because the anime returned next week, finally, after 6 months, back in Egghead. So, that'll be fun to see. But anyway, I really appreciate you sticking around and watching. I do appreciate it. Let me know what you thought of this chapter, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.